Hey everybody, this is Kurt Snow, and today I'm going to take some time to show you how to make a Chatterbait Style Bladed Jig. Bladed jigs have been catching a lot of fish for a lot of people, probably for the last 7 or 8 years or more, and Chatterbait is the most widely known name when it comes to bladed jigs, namely because they own the patent on a particular style. So they've kind of owned the market also. But there's nothing saying that you can't make your own bladed jigs at home to catch your own fish on, and you can customize them as little or as much as you'd like. So let's get started. Um, I'm gonna start with just showing you the various parts that you'll need. There are not very many pieces to these, so we start off with the jig head itself, and this is a non-weedless jig head. And then next we have the blade. And I apologize for the light glaring in the background back there. I don't have much of a setup for a studio, but anyway, this is your blade, and this is your wire snap. Get it in front of me. There you go. There you can see it. And then you have your split ring, if you can see it between my two fingers there. And then in addition to those pieces of hardware, you can also use various types of skirts. And let me get it turned around as you can see it. So this is just a standard jig skirt with you know, the red tails on the black, and a baitfish style skirt. This is a pre-made skirt, as well as the black and red one that I just showed you. And this is something that Lure Parts Online offers. It's called a Sensation spinnerbait skirt, and basically it comes all pre-made. And it has a unique type of collar built into it. Maybe you can see it a little better if I hold it up here, which causes the skirt to really flare. And you slide it onto the spinnerbait, and it's already flared out. It gives it a lot more action than standard skirts like this type. But I use this type. I put mine together myself, which we'll be doing here in a minute, and they work really well. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to get the jig head paired up with the blade. So the way that we do that is by attaching the blade to the split ring, or the split ring to the blade. So the first thing I need to do is grab my split ring pliers, and if you use split ring pliers, do yourself a favor, buy a good pair. The cheap $3 or $4 ones are just that. They're cheap, they don't work that well, and they can cause a lot more aggravation than the help that they give. So you just basically open the split ring up with the pliers. So I can turn it around here, you can see it a little bit. And then you're just going to slide start the split ring onto the blade, and then you're going to use the pliers to feed it the rest of the way through. And you're just going to keep turning that split ring until you've got it all the way through the blade. And let me see, almost there. Alright, so now you've got the split ring, excuse me, you got the split ring attached here, and you can see it's hanging from the blade. And then the next step is to take that split ring and attach it to the eye of the jig. So again, I'm going to use the pliers to open up the split ring. Get back to the good spot to open up. So the split ring pliers have a little groove. I don't know if you can see it or not. There you go. You can see the groove down here. And basically all you do is you take one wire of the split ring, not the whole split ring. You put the split ring in that groove, and you just open it up a very small amount. There you can see it. And then what you want to do is take your jig head and get the eye of the jig head and start passing that split ring right through the eye of the jig head. And you know, if you're not used to this, it takes a little practice to get it right the first time. But then once you get it in there, you just continue to feed it through, just like you did when you were attaching the split ring to the blade. You just keep turning it, and there you go. Now you've got your split ring your blade, and your jig head all attached. Okay. Now, the only thing left to do with regard to assembling the actual hardware is to install the wire snap. And you can see I'm using a black wire snap. I also used a black nickel blade versus the standard stainless steel blade because I'm building this bait to be used under low light conditions, pretty much after dark. I do a lot of fishing at night in the summertime, so a 1/2 ounce head with everything dark colored is the way I like to go, and I've caught a ton of fish on these things after dark. So basically at this point we're going to open up the snap, just press it open, and I kind of like to spread it a little bit just to make it easier to slide it onto the blade. So you take your blade and you want to take what I would call the front of the blade. In other words, the surface that's going to be going forward. You take the blade, and then you take the wire snap, and you take the first hole up top, so it'd be your top hole, and you work. It's hard to see it. I want to make sure you guys can see it when I snap it in there. So you take the snap and you pop it into that top hole and you pull it down. Get a good shot. Okay, so you can see that that snap has been pulled down, and it's tough to see it on the back, but you can see the snap is actually sticking through and it's resting down here. So once you've got it stuck through, you need to pop it up just a little bit, and then get my fingers out of the way, get the glare off of it. There we go. Now you want to do is, so you're going to, let me get back to where it was. So it was laying down. So you're going to pop it up just like that, and that's going to put, try to get a good angle here, that's going to put the end of the wire snap right on the hole. And then you're going to take your finger, try to do this without getting my hands in the way, but you're going to take your finger and you're going to press the end of the wire snap right into that hole, and then you're going to give it a little tug and a little push here, and you're going to have to wiggle it a lot of times. It goes through kind of hard. And there you go, it's snapped through. So now you can see all we have on the back is the loop on the wire snap. The rest of it is back out here. So all that's left is to close that wire snap. Just like that. Just close it up. Now it's secure. It's not going anywhere. And you've got all your hardware assembled for the jig itself. So in reality, the only thing left to do is to put a skirt on this thing, and you'll have a finished bladed jig. So if I wanted to make it just drop dead easy, and I was happy with a color skirt that I already have pre-made, I could just slide the skirt on there and be done with it. But I like to make my bladed jigs a specific color combination if I'm going to use them at night. So I use, and I also like to make my skirts really full, so I use extra silicone. So you can see that I've got the black and blue strip here. I actually have 2 black and blue strips. So I have one here, then I have a black with blue flake right here, and then another black and blue here. And then on the belly of the skirt, what will be the bottom of the bait, I like to put a chartreuse strip. And I do that because I found it under some conditions when it's not completely pitch black out, having just a little bit of color in that skirt will trigger bites that I would otherwise not get. So I've got my pencil skirt tool here. Basically I've already rolled a skirt collar onto it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and there's a little hook down here at the bottom. There you go, you can see the hook. I'm going to take that hook and I'm just going to feed it through all 4 of those strips. So you can see that it's hooked on there. I'm going to pull it up inside the tube on the skirt tool. So you can see it's in there. And all I do is I take the collar and I roll it down until it's onto the material. And you can see that it's not very far on. So once, now this is my personal preference, once I get the collar on there, I'll usually roll it down 3 more times. So I go once, there's twice, and there's 3. So we've got uneven amounts here. You can see that this end here is a lot longer than this end. But that's good, because when we flip the material and we let it fall, you can see that it's almost the same length as the other end, and that's good. That's what we want. So now I'm going to take my scissors, and I like to use big scissors when I cut my skirts, not little scissors. So basically I'm just going to cut the ends off of these. And I'm just going to look at it one more time and make sure I've got the lengths that I want. And in reality, I think I want to go one more turn, one more roll on this. So I'm going to grab it, just roll it one more time, and that gives me a little bit better proportion. So I'm just going to quickly cut the ends off the skirt tabs. Some guys just hold them all together and cut them all at once. I actually like to cut them individually just so I have a little bit better control of each one. And I've heard some people talk about, make sure you don't cut them perfectly straight. They have to be, a little off to make it look more natural. Well, my opinion is that when this thing is buzzing by and the fish are coming after it, they're not worried about whether the skirt is cut straight or crooked. So I just cut it off however I want to cut it off, and I catch tons of fish that way, big, small, and medium fish. So again, it's a personal preference, and I think sometimes people put way too much thought into this kind of thing, and they worry about, well, how natural is the skirt going to look if everything is cut perfectly straight? Well, like I said, this is a reaction style bait. It's going to be retrieved past the fish or past the cover that holds the fish. So when the fish see it, they're opportunistic. It's a reaction strike. Don't worry about how straight or how crooked it is. They're just going to eat the thing. If they're going to eat it, they're going to eat it. Having a straight or a crooked skirt doesn't matter. So we've got the skirt cut. You can see we've got a short end and a longer end, which is what we want. We want to have that longer end to go on first. So I'm going to hold the skirt upside down. I say upside down. Really, it's not upside down. It's just the longer end up top. And then all we have to do at this point, so we've got our skirt, and you take the point of the hook, you put it into the center of the skirt and pass it through just a tiny bit so you don't stick yourself. It's important you don't shove that hook into your finger. And then just slide it up onto the shank of the hook. And here's where it gets a little tricky, because on the Lure Parts Online heads, you've got the keeper here for your soft plastic, and you've got the keeper up here, the collar that holds the skirt in place. So it can be a little bit hard sometimes to get over both of those bumps, but you want to make sure that you do that, because if all you do is slide it up to here, eventually that skirt's going to come off, and it's also going to interfere with using this keeper to put your soft plastic trailer on. So I'm going to go ahead and slide that up a little bit, push it over the first barb for that bait keeper, and then push it one more time, and it's going to go over that last bump, and that's actually the collar that keeps that skirt in place. And I had to turn the skirt just a little bit to put the chartreuse on the bottom, because I want that chartreuse on the bottom of the bait to give it that little light, a little bit of light colored contrast there. And that's it. There's a finished bladed jig that will work just as well, if not better, than any chatterbait. And you can customize these things however you want. Like I said, you can use pre-made skirts like this, or you can make your own skirt, which you just saw me do. And I want to talk about something really quickly before I wrap it up. A couple different things. First of all, customizing. I've already customized this with a skirt in the color and the thickness or bulk that I want. I don't want a real flimsy, thin skirt. I want a fat, bulky skirt. And then there's another couple of things we can do to change it up. First of all, the blades are available in many different colors. looks gold on this on the camera, but it's actually copper. So you can get blades in stainless steel, copper plate, gold plate, silver plate, and this one here is the black nickel plate. All right. Now, if you want to just add color to your blade, you can actually do that by using a stainless steel blade, and there are stickers available that can be placed on the blades. So you can use silver, chartreuse, blue, red, it doesn't matter. They actually have another one that's like a black nickel color. It's really a really dark red, but it still has the prisms in it. I use those a lot when I'm fishing stained or muddy water. So this is a bait that I've been using a lot this spring that I made. You can see it's got a little bit of different colors in it, and it's all kind of bright and gaudy. Works really good in stained water. And because one of the lakes that I fish is super stained, I actually put a chartreuse sticker on blade to give it a little more flash, a little more color. All right, so that's the other type of customization that you can do when it comes to the blades by adding a sticker to it. Now, as far as trailers go, I personally like to use a soft plastic swim bait body. I like the fact that it gives me a bigger, bulkier bait. It gives me something that when the fish see it, it's got a big profile and it's going to entice those bigger fish. Now, if I'm fishing tougher conditions, I would probably scale down and use something a little lighter, a little smaller on the back. But if it's tough conditions, I'm probably not going to be throwing this that much anyway. And I also want to talk really quickly about using a split ring. There are a lot of people that don't want to buy these or make these if they have a split ring in them. They feel like the original Z-Man Chatterbait is the best way to go because the blade is connected directly to the jig head. And I was of that mindset until I started making these myself, and I found that I catch just as many, if not more, fish on the type with the split ring as I did with the blade connected directly to the jig head. And here's why, this is my opinion, but here's why I think I catch just as many, if not more, fish. If you look at this jig head, you can see right there on the corner there's paint missing. And if you look at the other corner, there's paint missing. Now, the reason it's missing on the corners isn't because I've cast this around a ton of rocks and bounced off of them. This split ring gives these baits incredible movement under the water. So when this blade is being pulled through the water and it's going back and forth, the head is actually making contact with the corner of the blade, which creates a ticking sound under the water. It's real faint, it's not real loud, it's very subtle, but it creates a sound that otherwise wouldn't take place. And you can see that even on this one here. You know, this is one that I just made earlier this spring, was fishing it in some muddy water, and you can see that on that head, the paint is gone on the corners. All right. And again, that's not from bouncing it off of rocks. This has been fished almost exclusively in a lake full of weeds. All right. And just to show you that these things work and they last a long time, this is one that my wife has been fishing with since last year, and she's caught a ton of fish on this particular color. And if you look closely, you can see pieces of the skirt are like missing. You got little short strands sticking out, and there's almost no paint left on the head. And that, you know, obviously here it's because it has been bounced off of rocks. It's caught dozens and dozens and dozens of fish. It still keeps catching them, and she's using the Swimbait. You see it's a little torn up there on the tail. She's using the Swimbait style trailer, and this is that is the black nickel sticker there on the blade that I was talking about. So the sky is the limit when it comes to the color combinations, you know, blades, stickers, etc., different types of trailers. Those are all things that you can customize. Those are all things that you have complete control over. But in the end, you know, I'll finish this off by taking one of these swim bait bodies like this. And basically, if you look real close, you can see I've cut the head off of it. And I'll put all the part numbers and item numbers and things in the description below the video. But basically, this is it. This is how I fish these. This is how I make them. And let me tell you something. They catch fish like crazy, and I'm not paying $5 or $6 a piece for them. I'm spending the money on the parts and the components, putting them together myself, and not only am I saving a lot of money, but I'm also getting the satisfaction of catching a ton of fish on lures that I make. Hope this video is enjoyable, hope it helps you, and let me know if you have any questions or comments. And until the next video, fish on, take care.